The UK is sending military engineers to help Poland strengthen its border defences. The announcement from the MOD came as Western nations condemned Belarus for the growing crisis on its border with Poland, where thousands of migrants are stranded in freezing conditions. The Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko is accused of orchestrating the crisis in response to sanctions imposed on his country. Thousands of migrants have flown from the Middle East to Belarus with the promise of entering the EU, then transported to its borders with Poland, Lithuania and Latvia. Our correspondent Steve Rosenberg is in Belarus, close to the Polish border.
By day, the scale of this migrant crisis becomes clear. Belarus's border with Poland transformed into a camp for those desperate to get to Europe. Tonight, for the first time, Belarusian border guards agreed to take us into the camp right up to the border. Behind the barbed wire, the European Union, just meters away. Many here are Kurds from the Middle East. The EU believes that Belarus helped them get here, that the country is facilitating illegal migration into Europe, revenge for sanctions. But Poland won't let them in.
We are like a homeless. We don't have any place to stay there. It's about weather, it's too cold. We just collect firing and burning our trees to make our bodies heat. But still we hope, we never give up.
We've been told there are more than 2,000 people in this camp living in pretty basic conditions. This story is a very human drama, but the backdrop, that's geopolitics. The migrant crisis is ratcheting up east-west tension. Near the border, paratroopers from Belarus and Russia held joint exercises, signalling whose side the Kremlin's on. Increasing too is Alexander Lukashenko's rhetoric. This week, he threatened to block the flow of Russian gas to Europe if the EU imposes more sanctions on Belarus. But those who see Belarus as a stepping stone to the EU, they couldn't care less about sanctions or geopolitics. They just want a better future. Many of them have paid thousands of dollars for package tours that bring them to Belarus and deliver them to the border with Europe. But no further. For most, the journey stops here. And so, they have to wait, in the cold, while governments argue, waiting and hoping to be let through. Well, Belarus rejects accusations that it's using migrants to wage hybrid warfare against the European Union, using civilians as a political weapon. Many of the migrants who've been arriving in Belarus have been arriving on flights via Turkey. Well, today, the Turkish authorities announced that they're stopping citizens of Syria, Iraq and Yemen from boarding flights to Belarus. And that could block a key migration route for people coming to Belarus and on to Europe.
Hey, Shalom. So, first and foremost, we give all praise, all honor, glory
Crisis
to
in response.
Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Kakadash. Double honors be to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and citation to the elders and the Akim of Great Millstone. That's pushing word with truth and sincerity. Shalom to the hopeful elect. Now, this is just pretty much an update as to what's going on with the Belarusian conflict, the Polish conflict, all right? EU versus pretty much, we're going to go with Russia. All right. As you know, if you don't know, what's going on down in Eastern Europe is you got the conflict as in Lukashenko, the president of Belarus. They're in cahoots. Slovakia. They're in cahoots with Russia. All right. With Putin. All right. And EU, and of course the EU nations have put sanctions on Belarus. Now Belarus, only thing that's blocking pretty much EU, which you have the bordering countries of Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, of course, with Germany, and to the south, I forget what country. But you have those countries that neighbors Belarus, all right, and Belarus is in the middle of where Russia is Russia to the far east is where Russia is, all right. So that's pretty much a middle grounds to where these both with EU and Russia collide, all right. So what's this mean for um the U.S.? The U.S. When everything is said and done, um, whatever if Poland gets into a conflict with Russia or Belarus, then by default America has to jump in because they're all in cahoots. They are allies. Thus saith NATO, the EO orders. All right, and therefore with also uh, Ukraine. All right, so like, hold on. You gotta be circumspect out here. Couple walkers and shit. But anyways, back to it. So and also you got the conflict with Ukraine and Russia that's going on, and Ukraine they're allies with America. All right, and the big thing about what's going on, which all this stuff is in confliction with World War III. Everything is going on. It's all that's about to be pretty much stirring up the pot of World War III. All right, that's why this story is so important. All right, Belarus has a lot of sanctions that was put on from Western Europe and of course EU and America. So they put sanctions on Belarus. All right, and Lukashenko he's using, so to speak, these immigrants that he's pretty much probably paid for through the inspiration and guidance of Putin to send some type of chaos or conflict to send immigrants to a border. Now these immigrants they are coming from the Middle East, and these people are dying due to the severe weather. Now it's extremely cold in Europe, all right, especially in these times in the later months. It's going to get real fucking cold out there, so there's going to be a lot of more casualties. So therefore, there's going to be a lot more. There's going to be a lot more pressure put on Poland to either let these immigrants in. All right. Now, for those who don't know, they're in the United States military, the Army. They send in their armored brigade combat teams. And their armored brigade combat teams they consist of you got your Bradley fighting vehicles, you got your Abrams tanks, you got your heavy mechanized infantry units, field artillery, your big armored stuff. That can do some serious damage. A real big defense. All right, and they send them out to do rotations um, per year. You got units coming out of Fort Riley, Fort Hood, those heavy mechanized units. They come out and do rotations every year. All right, and those units or battalions are strategically placed within Latvia, Lithuania, Germany, Poland. All right, those units are strategically placed to counter Russians' movement. All right, so that's where all this is going. All right, just give you an understanding, an idea that Belarus is in cahoots with Russia, Ukraine, Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Germany. They all allies with what NATO, part of NATO, EU, and America. So if anything goes down with Poland, America has their back. All right, and with Ukraine, um, America has their back. All right. So this is stirring the pot of World War III, so to speak. I'm gonna get Revelations. I'll get it. That's pretty much the only precept I have because we're coming into those times. All right, and these are all small, like little conflict things, but it gets the pot stirring, man. Because once people start dying, um, the people start to get antsy, and the pressure, so to speak, gets put on those said countries. All right, let's go to Revelations because we're in those times, man, of World War III. So let's get that. This is Revelation chapter 11, verse um, 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. And that's what we're waiting on. All right, we're waiting for prophecy. We wait for these things to increase, to intensify in Eastern Europe. We're waiting for things to intensify in the Middle East. We're waiting for things. So we're keeping our eyes focused on the prize, man, which is these prophecies in these lands that Yahweh Shem Yahushai is going to eventually bring all these nations, and they're going to fight. And then ultimately they're going to put their guns down. They're going to want to fight no more. And then Yahweh Shai is going to turn, is going to show up with his band of angels, and Yahweh Shai is going to force these fuckers to fight Yahweh Shai. And guess who's going to prevail? You already know that answer. So this is just I'm gonna continue to do more videos. I'm gonna definitely, Lord's will, Yahweh Shem Shai Ratazai. I'm gonna focus more in on these conflicts in Europe and the Middle East. I'm gonna get real more. I'm gonna dial in on these videos more, so to speak. So just to get a better idea of what's going on throughout the world, um, um, military focused. All right, with the NATO, with EU, with Russia, with Iran, Pakistan. So we're just gonna get real sharp with that. So, Lord's will, this becomes a series. Giving all praise, all honor, Lord, to you. How about you? The belongs be to the apostle, and that was a great millstone. Peace and citation to the elders and knocking. A great millstone is pushing his word with truth and sincerity. Shalom to the whole full like the Bible ball.